The date is December 16th, 2022. Japan releases a report, the second of its kind. The report calls for cross-border cooperation amid historic geopolitical competition. It calls out certain nations for not sharing universal values and attempting to revise the existing international order. One of these countries is a member of the United Nations Security Council, not naming names or anything. This referenced country has overtly trampled on the primary responsibility of maintaining international peace and security, says the report. Japan makes it clear that there is a status quo that is not being adhered to. The free, open, and stable international order, which expanded in the post-Cold War era, is at stake. These breaks with tradition are embroiling nations in geopolitical challenges and creating a severe and complicated security environment for the nation of Japan. If you're not an international affairs obsessive like us, here's a little translation. Japan is making moves to defend itself. Japan is already the most pressing advocate for denuclearizing North Korea and the world by extension. The island nation has been ringing the bell of global peace and universal values for almost a century. In this video, we're going to explore Japan's unique role and the present geopolitical climate that has led to this break from its strict adherence to pacifism. We're going to aim to do this chronologically, but we gotta jump around here and there to give adequate context. So welcome to the new year, buckle up, and get ready. This is the truth about Japan's new historic military strategy and what it means to its allies and near-peer competitors. This document will play a critical role for decades to come.
Japan unveiled a new national security strategy today.
Now, Japan has unveiled plans for its biggest military buildup since World War II.
This marks a shift for the regional power, one that everyone is watching.
It is impossible to talk about Japan, nuclear weapons, or international relations as a whole without discussing Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The year is 1945. The Germans surrender in May. In July, the Allies' Manhattan Project developed the Fat Man, a plutonium implosion-style nuclear weapon, and Little Boy, an enriched uranium gun-type fission weapon. On August 6th, the Little Boy is dropped on Hiroshima. Japanese Prime Minister Suzuki restates the government's commitment to ignoring the Allies and fighting on. On August 9th, the Fat Man is dropped on Nagasaki. Over the next 4 months, the effects of these atomic bombs kill between 90,000 and 146,000 people in Hiroshima and 39,000 to 80,000 in Nagasaki. Half of these casualties occurred on the first day. For months, Japanese citizens died from the effects of burns, radiation sickness, and injuries compounded by illness and malnutrition. On August 15th, Japan surrenders to the Allies. The way World War II ended has cast a long, dark shadow. In 1946, the US developed 9 atomic bombs, all of them with a distinction of Fat Man devices. This was the start of the nuclear age.
The Japanese have seen what our atomic bomb can do.
It's almost beyond the comprehension of mere humans.
You can't understand Japan just from this moment, though. You have to know the road they were on before they were forced to turn so hard. By the end of the 19th century, Japan was hard at work modernizing and growing its economy, with the hope of rising to the playing field of Europe's Industrial Revolution, and their strategy worked. But when Japan rose economically to the level of its potential colonizers, it took on some of their less pleasant traits. The empire launched a war, attempting to take control of much of East Asia and most of Oceania to feed its industrial and military growth. This conflict, known in the US as the Pacific Theater of World War II, caused approximately 30 million deaths and caused vast destruction to dozens of nations. All Japan's conquest, modernization, and economic growth reversed with the bombing, nuclear and otherwise, that ended the conflict. In the years after the war, the United States led the Allies in a rehabilitation and reformation of the Japanese state. This ended with a formal peace treaty between the two countries. In 1947, Japan applies its no-war constitution, desiring peace for all time. It states that, quote, "The laws of political morality are universal, and that obedience to such laws is incumbent upon all nations who would sustain their own sovereignty and justify their sovereign relationship with other nations." This constitution goes on, quote, "Aspiring sincerely to an international peace based on justice and order, the Japanese people forever renounce war as a sovereign right of the nation. Land, sea, and air forces, as well as other war potential, will never be maintained. The right of belligerency of the state will not be recognized." End quote. With its partnership with the United States, Japan flourished in the mid to late 20th century, but the devastation of the atom bomb lingers to this day. The full effect of Hiroshima and Nagasaki on the daily lives of the survivors is its own video. Over these past 7 decades, Japan has relied on this treaty of cooperation and security with the United States. The fine print includes an agreement that the United States defends Japan in the event of enemy invasion. Japan has already purchased more American-made F-35 stealth fighter jets than any other country outside the United States. But following Russia's invasion of Ukraine, Japan's neighbors are becoming more and more lethal. In August 2022, China's military launched 5 ballistic missiles during exercises around Taiwan, and they landed within Japan's exclusive economic zone, EEZ. However, this wasn't the first time. Before the latest, China's defense ministry fired off 11 ballistic missiles into water to the north, east, and south of Taiwan. This was confirmed by Taiwan's defense ministry. The following Tuesday, China announced it would hold some of its largest military exercises, including more ballistic missile launches. Japan's defense ministry stated that these initial missiles landed in waters southwest of Haruruma Island. 4 of them were believed to fly over Taipei before landing in Japan's EEZ, a major escalation. China's new exercises are ostensibly a response to Nancy Pelosi's visit to Taiwan, publicly advocating for the island's freedom. These Chinese missile drills are a message to Taiwan and the US, but also a warning to Japan. Over the years, China has sent many warships and warplanes with similar patterns. This is just one threat in close proximity to Japan. Let's talk about North Korea. Cut to the following November. North Korea had previously escalated tensions in East Asia by firing at least 23 missiles. But it was the next 6 that triggered an emergency alert system in a few northern prefectures, urging residents to take shelter. The United States, South Korea, and Japan have conducted many military drills in response to these launches. But the response to the response was North Korea firing more missiles. South Korea responds to this response by firing missiles of its own from fighter jets into international waters. Everyone in Japan's neighborhood is flexing, but the flexing is done with nuclear weaponry with the potential to devastate entire populations. None of this would be a bedtime story for any country, but Japanese history gives this a different flavor. Remember Hiroshima and Nagasaki, the no-war constitution? This is the soul and identity of Japan in the 20th century. Can these morals survive in an increasingly dangerous East Asia? Okay, let's back up for a sec and talk about Japan's economy. Here's an interesting fact. Japan has had a self-imposed 1% military spending cap since 1976 during Prime Minister Miki Takeo's administration. The purpose of the spending cap was to prevent itself from becoming a military superpower and avoid Cold War defense expenses. The limit was technically abolished in 1987 during the administration of Prime Minister Nakasone Yoshihiro, but to the postmodern age, it's remained a tradition. The cap is one of the most significant hurdles standing in the way of Japan's investment in defense. It would have to be an extreme security climate to break this precedent. For context, the US spent a whopping 3.4% on military expenditure in 2021. But desperate times call for desperate measures. On March 3, 2017, Prime Minister Shinzo Abe informed the Diet that the cap would be broken, spending 5.9 trillion yen, that's about 50 billion American dollars, on defense measures. This number has escalated every year since then, and 2023 only drives the pattern further and faster, as Japan plans to spend 6.82 trillion yen, about $54 billion. But the consistent record breaks are just beginning. Here we are again, 2022, middle of December. The report in question is a security strategy, the second ever of its type. As previously stated, it begins by expressing disappointment at the increasingly violent geopolitical climate across the globe, specifically citing Russia's invasion of Ukraine. It also reaffirms its values as a peace-loving country. But as the United States released its security strategy this year, it would only make sense if Japan did the same thing. The strategy notes that a share of the national budget will be going towards research and development for creating new defense technology. The Ministry of Defense will also aid in international collaboration of missile research and development. Missiles in general are the priority. Japan's strategy emphasizes a need to fight over a sustained period of crisis. This means the country will need more infrastructure for military technology, more ammunition, and more fuel. The goal? Working towards national readiness to respond to threats at a moment's notice. One of the largest points of discussion is preparedness to exercise counter-strike capabilities, i.e., firing back with long-range missiles in the event of an assault. This is a departure from their previous strategy of shooting down missiles already in flight or relying on the United States capability. These missiles, likely acquired from the United States, will present Japan as a threat to any nation considering attacking them. Prime Minister Fumio Kishida called for an administration to ensure counterstrikes are responsive only, not preemptive. Kishida also noted that these counterstrike capabilities are a part of Japan's missile countering measures, not the only means for Japan to defend itself. And make no mistake, the United States fully supports this military buildup, as it solidifies Japan as a powerful ally in continuing to thwart North Korea and China. Japan's defense plan is mired in controversy already. North Korea considers the possession of counter-strike capabilities as a threat. China also thinks this strategy will create greater unrest in East Asia. If you've been following along, this may read as more of the same geopolitical flexing, but this time Japan's stepping into the fold as an equal with powerful allies. Already, Prime Minister Kishida has met with US President Joe Biden and South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol to discuss leading the charge on denuclearizing North Korea. By aligning itself with these powerful world shakers, military and otherwise, Japan places itself on equal footing with other nations. The pacifist nation has finally announced to the world that it refuses to bow down in submission to anyone.